Uh, whose wife is that?
Where would you be if you never lost a client? Welcome to Sales Chatter. This is the sales podcast with the mission of getting 10,000 reps to hit a million GP. I'm your co host, Ryan Mohammed. With me is my main man, Jeff Dickinson, the president and CEO of RGTX Logistics Solutions. What's going on this morning, brother?
Not a whole heck of a lot. It's actually really calm this morning. And, being in the logistics industry, you got to love those days. I'm not complaining whatsoever, but you know what? It all has to do with client retention. So let's get to it and make it happen.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
I was gonna say it's so cold outside, so it's like that means like logistics has to be like it has to be on fire, to kind of combat that because it's been like this week we're getting like minus. I think they saw in the news like minus 25 with the wind chill
Really?
this Friday. So stay home, folks. Stay home and maybe talk to your customers, man.
Light
See
that,
how they're
light
going.
that fireplace up, man.
Yeah, gotta get that fireplace, man. Gotta stay
Oh, my
warm, and
God.
I think it's truly important to stay warm and keep going. Right, we got the new month already. What's
Well,
going
that's
on, Jeff?
tomorrow. That's
Yeah,
tomorrow.
but
So
think
that
about
means,
that though, like we just yesterday we had our Christmas show, and we had our 12 like our with all the amazing guests that we have, and now we're like month one, we got 11 months left. So one of the important things, and the reason why I want to talk about this topic is because this is the progression of what a sales rep would go through when they're kind of like sales focused, and then they kind of get to operations, booking their loads. They got some customers, they're going everything like that, but are you keeping them? And that's the most important. Are you having those discussions with them? Because we've often seen, we ride those ebbs and flows of logistics. What if we were both to tell you that you don't have to ride ebbs and flows? What if it's just a straight linear progression?
yeah.
Jeff, I know, we might not even go to 30 minutes today. We might go for the full hour because I know how passionate you are about this. Talk to me about client retention, my friend.
Yeah, I think that is the single most important um, thing that should be thought of more than anything else that you do in this business. Because I know for a fact that it will cost you more to find a replacement than it will to keep a client on board and keep them happy. I have a saying, and you probably heard it a long time ago. I believe in clients for life, and I do whatever I possibly can to make sure that I'm either meeting or exceeding their expectations. And that's not an easy task because, like I said before, in order to do that, you have to be like a psychologist or a chameleon like kind of person, being able to change your colors at a moment's notice, being able to analyze different people different ways because no two people are the same. So you have to have that adaptability to be a good listener and understand what your clients are saying. And it's all about that, man. All about that.
And we talked about listening too yesterday as well. And there's so many steps that get you to getting clients for life and finding those like you said, the hidden bank opportunities where you're congruent. So I think for me, when you look at those things, first you gotta before you even make the call or anything like that, you gotta find if you guys are congruent, as personalities. Am I gonna be able to laugh with this person, but am I able to gonna give the hard news? And are they gonna give me the hard news and no one takes offense to it, knowing that this is simply for growth? And I think when it comes to clients for life, the way that I kind of operate things, Jeff, is I start with my onboarding. Once I have like a Teflon onboarding, you get all those hiccups out of the way. You don't have any kind of issue. Well, issues are going to come up, but you try
Sure.
to mitigate as much as you can from there. So you create that strong onboarding presence, and you know customers will that's kind of like your first point of contact where they start bringing in their teams and everybody kind of gets to know each other, and then like you said, you sit at the oak table and things like that, and that's where you get to leave the first impression. So I think with client retention, it's something that you're always working towards. It's nothing that is, hey, I've done this once, we're good to go, everything's, because things change, right? Just because you're doing an amazing job doesn't mean that your customer is not getting those 30 to 40 calls a day and might pay attention to one of them or a couple of them. They might have some trigger words that are like, maybe let me take a look there. Jeff, when it comes to like, I know you said like you have your first confirmation, and even for mine, with your first customer, and you kind of built that through a referral through a friend. Are you still working with that customer still on like from there? Because I know I'm still working with my sales
Oh yeah,
first customer.
all of them. You know, all of my clients came from references or recommendations from ex-bosses that I worked for that just gave me a call. I mean, they looked me up. It's been years. They said, I have a client that I can't do this. Can you do this for me? I'll do the introduction, all of this. Boom. As long as I get my foot in the door, I'm really good at closing. I really am. I'm not just saying it. I mean, I do have a history of doing that. Um, and it worked out great. One quick story is that when I was working for this one gentleman, it was total logistics. They were like one of the first 3PLs in the country back in the very early 90s. And they had their client on board, and they called the client the poster child of the company because it was the first one that they had on board. And I worked there for about 7 years, and I was an account executive manager, managed different accounts. And one of the customers that they gave me was the poster child. And that was a lot of weight on my shoulders because they believed in what I brought to the table and what the value is that I could do for them. And this company has been around since 1896. So they are and still are a very huge company. Make a long story short, the director of supply chain, I mean, I re-engineered a lot of their packaging, put a lot of different things in place, and we became best of friends, going golfing, going out to drink. He used to travel to China all the time. He was much older than me, but it's that congruency. It was a client for life. He gave me a great recommendation. Those are the type of things that everybody should strive for because it's very, very important. Because you think about it, they belong to the Chamber of Commerce in their specific town, and if you're doing a good job, word of mouth, grapevine, whatever, if you knock it out of the park, there's no reason why they wouldn't say something to somebody if you did a great job. You're only as good as the last shipment you do. So it's all about, like I said, the client retainment and how are you going to do that to kind of just have that seat at the oak table. I said, once you get to that oak table and they bring you in on everything that's going on, new products, ramping up, new facilities, all of that, you're in. You're in like a flint, but don't take it for granted because you always have to bring more value all the time. You just can't sit back and feel relaxed like, okay, I don't have to do a damn thing. I'm going to be in here. That's not going to happen,
Yeah.
So you always have to reinvent the wheel in order to keep a client on board. Keep them happy.
Keep them happy. And understand one thing one of my first boss told me, Jeff, was that every account that comes up, unless it's a brand new company or something like that, you're taking that away from somebody. And you have to understand that. And he always kind of like mentioned to me that, when it comes to clients, and even we'll talk about the carrier side later in the show about client retention. But for me, one of the things is that trust is the number one thing to build, but understand that trust is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. And don't assume that just because they trust you, that they'll buy from you. Right? There's two different things
One
from there.
thing though, I got to interrupt you, okay? Trust is not given, it is earned.
Yeah.
That's number one, okay? So they don't know if they can trust you at night or whatever. I mean, you have to be forthright, honest, upfront, totally transparent, tell them what they want to hear, what they definitely don't want to hear, and have the ability to say no and be able to agree to disagree. All big points that must be taken.
And I think what trumps that is being able to deliver on what you said.
Absolutely.
Actually be able to like be consistent with it, because at the
Yes.
end of the day, you're representing your logo, regardless of if you're self-employed or things like that. You're representing the
yourself.
the companies believe. Well, yourself and the company believes, because if you do work for a logo, let's say I went to a new company and I screwed up a shipment or something like that, that logistics manager is going to be like, screw these guys. So I can go to a different company and a rep from the previous company can be calling them, but they're going to remember that experience that they had, right? And be like, no, no, no. But then all trust like you said, trust takes time, but you're able to kind of like maneuver in a way, because the one big conversation you always kind of say, you're a Landstar agency as well. We all know the rep, like, let's call a spade a spade. We all know the rep of some agencies out there. So you kind of sometimes, I know you've mentioned sometimes when you spoke with some customers where they had a little bit of reserves because of the past or like the name, right? So understand that, hey, I'm me, I'm not that previous guy, and give me that chance to kind of go and go from there. And like I said, consistency and reliability and being able to deliver on what you said you're going to do. Because one of the commandments that we kind of had at our first company was like, like, never, what is it? Under promise. Oh, sorry. Always never under promise, but over deliver. Sorry, it's kind of, we had like 20 commandments that kind of culty there. But talk to me about, Jeff, about like feedback, as you kind of said, like for referrals and things like that. That kind of customer feedback loop that kind of happens. You do a good job. Spell out the formula for me.
Yeah, the formula is that you're only as good as the last shipment that you deliver, right? You can have a billion data boys, but the last one that they're going to remember is the last one that you screwed up on, right? That's where about the honesty and everything. So the thing is being able to talk with them and have that trust, that mutual understanding, have that congruency. And once that takes time, don't expect that to happen like overnight, because that will not happen. Again, that's all earned. And once you get in there and they're comfortable with you and vice versa, again, I got to go back to what you said earlier. Why? I think you said your boss, remember, you're taking over somebody else who was doing business with them. So that just opens up the question for that client as well. Is like, okay, why did you take me over that other service provider? What were the problems that you had with them? It's again the exploratory part of that relationship. So you have the mutual understanding that you don't want to duplicate what that other person did, and you want to stay far away from it, right? That's where you're going to get those referrals and those recommendations from doing exactly that and creating some outrageous value. They will be more than happy to give you those recommendations. And there'll be a point where you reach out to your contact and say, can you give me a letter of recommendation? Or, you know what? I see that you are doing business with company A. Do you mind if I went out to your vendor? I don't want to do it behind your back. I'd rather get your okay to do so. And would you mind giving me a referral since I'm knocking it out of the park? I mean, just be upfront. Just ask it that way, And
just be straight up and transparent with it. And one of the big strategies that I use, Jeff, is that I always, like I said, I always talk to my customers weekly. Just to kind of shoot the shit. Like even yesterday, I got customers out in Kansas City, so we're just shooting the shit about the Kansas City Chiefs game, and no business. We probably talked for like 15, 20 minutes. No business was spoken, but we're going to have another conversation this week. And one of the biggest things, what you just said, that I always kind of ask is, I also actually asked for the intro. I always kind of look at, hey, this, where you're shipping to is a customer, kind of like a dream customer that I'd love to get into. Would you mind making me an intro? Never once has a customer said no. They're able, and that's one of the best things. And I think I saw that in a video a couple weeks ago where someone was pitching, another freight broker was pitching to a customer, but they said, I don't want to tell you what I do. I want my customer to tell you what I do, and let it lead from there, right? And I think, do you maintain, like, let's say, like a communication calendar for personal, or is it just strictly business?
We only talk when we need to. We have that kind of understanding. It's when if nothing's happening that's going wrong, there's no real need to communicate with them. Sometimes
so let me pick your brain.
Yeah.
Do you send the loads like the month? Like, do you do like a recap of loads for the month, or no? Not really.
No, because the thing is that what's happening is, if it's transactional, that's one thing. If it's dedicated and it's working like clockwork, as long as because the carriers talking to the track and trace team, if there's an issue with them or delays in pickup or delays in delivery, they're going to get in contact with me. I created all that up front. Okay, as long as it's working like clockwork and streamlined and there's no issues, there's no real reason to discuss anything. When we discuss stuff, it's what have you done for that client. For instance, if a lift gate was required, but they failed to ask you or tell you that it was needed, and then after the fact they needed it, I'll go back to them and say, hey, listen, you forgot about telling me about that lift gate. Oh, I forgot about that. Depending upon what kind of customers, you might just go, you know what? We'll just let it fly. I'll eat that cost, whatever it is. Those are the type of things that you embed into their minds that keep them as a client, because they know that you're going beyond the call of duty to help them out besides just moving their freight. You're willing to work with them, which is very, very important.
And they're all always busy. And for me, so what I do with my business, whether it's dedicated and transactional, every client that I work with, every month, like once I get my numbers, I'll send like a report. I'll send a report, on-time report, and it's just a template that I made in Excel. It literally takes me like maybe a minute to get it done, right? Just to
Yeah,
plug info in, and it's worked for me because I'm a relationship guy. And when people say, "Oh, I'm a relationship guy," is a relationship just for logistics or is it a relationship for personalities? I kind
right.
of lean more on the personalities. Hey, I want to get to know your family. Let's go hang out and things like that, because I feel like that's just I've seen this through my dad too. Like I said, my dad was a logistics manager growing up, and I've seen that because I've always understood that, hey, if I like somebody or somebody likes me, I can do this business with my eyes closed, right? Because like realistically, you know what you kind of value adds you bring to the table. So for me, I kind of focus more on the personalities. Find out what some milestones are going. Send some snail mail or
Yeah,
different things like that. And those are the ways that I set up like a communication with them. And anytime we kind of get let's say our company announces that I work with, hey, we got some new warehousing. I'll just forward that over. Just like kind of nothing. Hey, just let you know we offer these value add services as well. And I like what you said about the lift gate, because I personally, and this is just the way that I operate, anything that's like, let's say, waiting time, anything that's like anything maybe like a layover, I tend to eat those costs more, just to not even bug the customer, because I don't want to be that annoying. Oh my god, our driver was in at 101 and they were loaded at
right.
350. We need that like point 0.5. I'm just not that type of person. I'm like, okay, well, what is it? Let's just eat the cost. And whether we gotta go for I like we said, when you're working with your customer, the less they hear of you of issues during is the best, right? Like Tony Darnell said it on the show that you guys had, and there's things that I always kind of remember was like, once you pick up, I don't want to hear from you.
Right.
Once it's delivered, let me know it's delivered. That's it. But I don't want to hear from you. Like, bring me a
Exactly.
solution.
Exactly. As long as things are working, it's you don't want to hear if you do get that call, it's bad, kind of deal. And it's so funny, we're talking about congruency and whether or not you have a good relationship with your shipper. So I'll tell you this real quick story, and you'll get a chuckle out of it because I laugh all the time. So my partner and I are working on this RFP, and he worked his tail off, and we got it. Okay, 1.2 million, $1.4 million worth of business. So my client calls me up and says, "Hey Jeff, you know what? Your rates came in. We're going to give you these lanes." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And I wasn't like, "Yeah, all right." I was like, "That's really great. I appreciate that. Thank you." He says, "No, you've been doing a good job." So I hang up the phone, right? So I'm like, "How am I going to pump up my partner?" So without hesitation, I get back on the phone, and guess who I called? My client. And I thought it was my partner. And I went, "Oh my God, Mike, I can't believe we got this thing." And I was like really pumping up. And here's my customer going, Jeff, it's me. It's your client. Stop like this, And he just started laughing. And I just said to him, I go, "Rich, this is the kind of passion that we have about your business, and we work so hard to make sure that we're meeting or exceeding your business." And I really thought I was calling up my partner because he did a great job. And he goes, "That's great," like that. So those are type of relationships that you strive for, to make things really click. And he's been with me for a long time.
Yeah.
That's what you want. You want that goal and objective to be met.
Yeah, and when people are like looking like to like go to different companies and things like that, they always kind of look at their book and they're like, okay, who's gonna come with me? Yeah, I know there's a whole non-compete, non-solicit. I'm not trying to get into that, but you have the internal cost. Like we all have the talks. Like, okay, who's gonna eventually come with me or something like that, right? And it goes benefits of where you get so ingrained in their supply chain that they can't deal with you. Like I'll give a quick story here. Maybe I shouldn't be telling this, but hey, we're going ad hoc. But when I have integrity in terms of that's important for me. So if I ever make a move somewhere, I never take my book. I just, hey, this is what I did here. I'll build it brand new when I go here. I had a customer call me, basically complaining, saying, "Hey, look, man, wherever you guys left, they dropped it. They dropped the ball. They didn't care like you did." And things kind of happened from there. And it just made me realize that it doesn't matter the logo. People buy from people. People
That's
want to
it.
work with people. Like Jeff, you can literally go open up Jeff Dickinson's logistics tomorrow. 99, well, no, I'm gonna say I'm 100% confident that those same customers and those things that you've built, they'll come over. And that's why we're not talking about like leaving companies, but it's just you've become so ingrained that you're more than a logo. You're the person who is like, hey, if I need somebody to pick up lobsters on Thursday, Ryan is the guy. If I need to pick up lobsters on Friday, Ryan is not the guy. So it's for me, it's like setting up those strategies within the team. And one big thing for me is that I get my team so ingrained into my customers' operations that it's just not me. Like just like you've said, you've set up things, and we'll talk about carriers coming up. Like I get my ops team, my customer service team, like they are so ingrained in our customer success that it's not just booking loads to them. Like they're able to chat. I even see some emails where like their load planners and our load planners are like shooting the shit, and I'm like, I love this. Like this is a true partnership from there. How important, because I know you have a partner as well, that you're congruent with, how important to it is that they're ingrained into the business as well?
Very, very, very important. But I just want to go back to what you were talking about with the clients. When you get some clients can't afford to lose you. And let me explain. If you're embedded or ingrained into their business and you know exactly everything that they're doing, when they're doing it, why they're doing it, what they're bringing on, new products, new facilities, new lanes, etc., you know too much. There's too much time that was spent and effort behind creating that congruency, that true working partnership that in a lot of cases, if you get to that point, a client doesn't want to lose you because they'll look at the time spent and everything that was from that beginning to where you are now and all that time. Because let's face it, you're not just talking with the logistics manager or the traffic manager or the supply chain manager. Hopefully you're sitting at the table with the C-level, the VP of ops, the VP of logistics. Their time is money. And if they are throwing out their guts to you and you're sitting there and you're creating these round tables and you're bringing in the carriers and you're bringing in your CSRs and your inbound person, your outbound person, there's so much involved in it. That's where you want to be on that side. That's only on the big operations. That's the kind of stuff that I love to do. Huge, massive. Because I can create that. That's the kind of stuff that you want. Now, ask me that question again. What you just said about the importance of partnerships. Yeah. So my partner, we hit it off in the beginning just from a conversation, and it's just like reaching out to a client. Right off the bat that things are clicking, that there's some type of congruency there. There's like-mindedness. There's things that he said that you would said, and vice versa. And I just asked him, I said, Mike, you know what? We're meant to do this.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about becoming my partner on this? I think we're going to knock it out. And he's been on board since February, March of last year, killing it. I mean, we have so many things in the pipeline right now. And it's my wife always says, every time she walks into the room in my office, she's like, how come you're always laughing every day? Every time you and Mike are on the phone, you're always laughing and stuff. When are you going to go to work? And I was like, I am working, but I said, I love what I do. The passion's there. That's the point that you have to get. Logistics can be as stressful as you want it to be. If
Yes,
you want it to
100%.
if you
100%.
want it to be that way. But
Yeah.
if you really dig in and you look at your processes and what you do, how you do it, why you do it, and you start reevaluating that, you can cut so much of that stuff out. That stress level can come down. It doesn't have to be as stressful as you make it, because you're your own worst enemy. I say it all the time. And that translates to, believe it or not, that will translate to your customers that you're contacting every day. Because if you're not feeling it, that you're going to come across that when you have those discussions, and they're going to pick it up. And it's not a good place to be in. So
100%. That's why after, like, even for me, it's like I ride this high of this podcast. As soon as we get off the camera and you and I chat for a bit, I go and make 10 videos, prospecting videos, because I'm camera ready. I'm ready to kind of go with there. And Jeff, one of the big things for me that I've learned is I look at other companies, how they do client retention and not logistics. So I'll look at Starbucks, for example, and I will give you an example here. Starbucks, you walk into a Starbucks, people think, hey, it's just a coffee shop. But
Right.
like, it's been a long time that you can actually just order on your app, and then you literally go and pick it up. So that means they're making the customer experience easy. They don't have to talk to anybody. I could place the order right now, go and walk into my Starbucks, pick up my order for Ryan, walk out right away, without saying anything to anybody. And I think when it comes to logistics, one thing that we always kind of look at is like technology, like embrace technology if that's your things. Getting, like, one things that we've gotten rid of is like check calls, where's the carrier or anything like that. There's so many tools out there. There's, like, what is there? There's Samsara, and there's Forkites, and then there's MacroPoint, just to eliminate that. So we've eliminated that question of, hey, where's the truck? So think about that. That load planner on the other side, on our side, they don't have to worry about that. We can talk about other things. We could talk about even like if the shipping is automated. I love online booking for appointments. It's the best thing that you can possibly ever get. And I think you look at client retention, you look at McDonald's, you're like, okay, you got the app now, you get some points, and things like that. What are some, have you ever implemented like what is it, like, what would you kind of call that, like client retention, um
processes,
yeah, like or like a retention strategy, or a loyalty program. Yeah, there we go, loyalty program. Have you ever implemented something like that, Jeff?
Yeah, what I did, every client out there, at least the wise ones, I should say, want to streamline everything that they do, because the logistics managers have so much stuff that land on their desk every single day. They get blindsided constantly all the time. So they're looking for process improvements. They're looking for efficiencies, streamline things, and that's pretty much what I do. Like if they go and they call me up, like last night at 1 o'clock in the morning, my California one said, "Oh, we're not going to be able to load this trailer. Can we switch Ohio to PA instead of Wednesday and Tuesday, and vice versa, because we don't have enough freight to load them out?" Boom, make it one phone call. I send it back. They're happy. Just like that, just like instantaneous. They know that, what trailer is going to be there, when they're going to be there to pick it up. And it's clockwork, because we developed that whole thing in the beginning. That was part of the value, that streamline. Who's coming in, what day, at what time, scheduling. They have a specific schedule that they have to be there, and it's all drop and hook. So there's a lot of moving pieces in there to make things work correctly. That's the key, streamline. When you get a new client that's big, look at, I always say, the what ifs. Look at what could go wrong, and how could you fend that off, and write all that down. And when you have that conversation with them, bring up all those questions, dot those I's, cross those T's, make sure that that's been addressed at that time. So this way there's fluidity in the relationship and the operations, and things just makes your life a lot easier. You can make it so disastrous. You really can.
And people don't understand that we're like, when you look at it, like, know you hate the word broker, but we're a middleman, right? We're like Uber. We're like what is the Airbnb we don't own the trucks, we don't own the hotels, we don't own the spaces, but we can connect you with that. And I think when it comes down to that, you got to kind of understand that it goes more into the service. And that's what client retention is. It's service. You're servicing somebody so that they'll want to continue to quote unquote buy from you. But at the end of the day, it's that experience, like I said, getting integrated. And one thing, Jeff, that I've kind of seen anytime, let's say I'm going to buy a product, I'll always kind of Google, and then you'll see the competitors, and you'll always see competitor versus the product that you're looking at. And then you always kind of see that. And I embrace that when it comes to logistics. I embrace that completely, because I'm not here to hoard it and be like, and try to shield my customer from seeing other options. If they feel they want to, then go ahead. Maybe the grass is not greener.
The smart ones, Ryan, are going to do that. At least I hope they do.
Yes.
I'm not afraid to throw my profile out there. It was like, listen, I don't know if the other ones that you're dealing with or looking into, but I tell you what, and I always, maybe I have the upper hand here because I was in their position as a shipper. So I always ask questions, what I would ask if I was sitting in there, because I did. Okay. I won't accept anything that I wouldn't accept, if that makes any sense. A lot of people haven't sat in their seat. They don't understand that. So I'm able to go in and do that kind of stuff because it's critical, man. It's so critical.
It's number one. Yeah, it's number one. And this is the way that, you don't have to worry about making more calls and things like that, because like we're doing this progression of a journey, right? You've already done the prospecting. You've already done like your 1,000 calls. You've kind of learned the industry already. You're booking loads. You've got customers already. So many times we'll like get customers set up for like a one-off or transactional, and then they just go into the graveyard of accounts, and maybe a new sales rep will hit them up in 6 days. It's like, no. Like, keep in touch and understand that even though you've done the SOP and you've done like the credit files and stuff like that, you're not paid until the customer pays you. And at the end of the day, you do a good job so that you can get more. Right. And I think like when it kind of comes down to that, that's what we look at. And I've always kind of been a big believer in, for my business at least, Jeff, like, I don't want more than 15 clients. I can't manage, like, imagine like having to manage like 50 more than 15 clients. It's just not me. It's not. So I have no problem, like, if somebody comes to me and giving a referral to amazing people that I've spoken to on LinkedIn, or a teammate or something like that. Hey, can you guys run with this one? I'm just kind of at capacity, or this is what I can take, and know what you can choose. Because I know some people will say, oh no, you shouldn't be doing that. You should at least try to do everything. But for me, it's like, I understand what works for me, and this is all subjective, right? Especially with yourself and being like dedicated. So,
something. I mean, it all depends the size of the operation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more clients you have, the more chaos, right? Do you want 10 $100,000 clients, or do you want one $10 million client? The dedicated is so much easier to control than having all of these other clients and trying to work them and be on top of that constantly all the time, because everybody is different. Like I said, chameleon, right? Adaptability. They're going to ask different questions than everybody else. So it's that control aspect, if you have a 30 team brokerage, go at it, because you can do it. If you're a 2-man or a 1-man, I would rather have two $25 million clients than 40, 20,000 or whatever all over the freaking place. You got to look about the control, because remember, that has a huge bearing on the way that you interact with customers, because it's a trigger mechanism. One may piss you off, but you have to now talk the other one. How are you going to change that face and put that smile on to discuss that, right? Because you're going to be pressed every single day. So it really all depends. And so if you want to take it to the next level, it's like the field of dreams. Are you going to build it before they come, because you have to prepare yourself? You don't want them to come and not be prepared and then fail miserably, and then they're gone. So I mean, there's so many different things you have to think of. The newbies that come on board, they're not going to know what to do on that side, and it's up to their management to help them, hold their hand, figure out everything to get everything in place, what they need. So the experienced ones hopefully would understand that, as long as they worked in the operations on the other side, not always in the brokerage. So there's many different folds here. Huge.
100%, 100%. And one thing that's worked for me, Jeff, is like educating. Like education is a big one, and I think for me, what I've been doing ever since the show kind of started is like every Wednesday episode. If I find value into it, I'll send it over to a customer and be like, hey, check out from so to like this the timestamps and understand that, hey, have you seen this? Especially when we're talking about the railway. Those were big for me, I'm not gonna lie. When the railway shutdowns were happening, I would
Yeah.
just send them to my customer and say, hey, what are your thoughts? What are you guys seeing on your end here? And kind of having those conversations, because like I said, it's more than picking up and delivering a shipment. It's
Right.
being ingrained, being a spoke on their wheel, so that, as weird as it sounds, for me, and I've actually learned this from Dan, so all credit to Dan. When I kind of bring on a new client or existing client, I find out what their personal goals are. If it's like, hey, what kind of bonus are you looking for? What kind of lifestyle change are you looking for here? Like, if you've come to this new company, you're 6 months in, what kind of changes are you trying to make? And then help them try to achieve that, because like I want to make my customer look like a superstar to his boss. There's nothing better than that. And I think that's so important. And another part of like client retention too is what we all kind of see is when your client, if they decide to leave and they go somewhere else, who do you think that first call they're going to make, or the second call they're going to make? Hopefully it's going to be you for the job that you've done.
Yes, that has happened to me on 3 of my customers that I had. All C-level people that was there for a period of time. They took off, gave me a call, and say, "I'm now with this one." I mean, that's the type of impression that you want to leave. No matter how. I mean, let's face it. There's going to be good and bad days. But you have to remember, the company doesn't sign your check. The boss doesn't sign your check. Okay. The clients sign your check. You have to know who signs your check every single week. It's not your boss. It's not your company. It's your client. So keep that in mind. First and foremost, every time you interact with them, remember, depending upon how you interact with them is going to determine whether or not you're going to get paid. Right. And if you like paying your bills and having a good time and going on vacations and everything, that's your primary focus, is your customers, and always should be. There should not be any other diversion on that. You should know who signs your paychecks, and that will set that mindset every time you talk to them, that you have to be kind, you have to be transparent, you have to be honest, and you have to be willing to say no and agree to disagree on every single interaction with every client that you have. So
there we go. And there's no better way to end off on that. My last takeaway is honestly just call your clients, talk to them more. Figure out how you can get ingrained. And if you have some dormant prospects that maybe you move one or couple loads, or you haven't moved loads in a while, give them a call. Just let's see what's going on, see if anything's changed, and try to re-engage those conversations. So want to thank everybody for coming out today. We'll see you guys back on the replay at 12 and 3 p.m. Eastern time on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Data Day tomorrow is going to be a banger. It's one of our favorite day of the week. Try to get that education portion. So with that being said, everybody be safe, have an amazing day, and crush your sales.
Have a good day, guys.